I don't know what my grandparents would think if they come back for one day and see what's going on today.
I turned to these ways because I didn't have nothing left. I was at my lowest point in my life, rock bottom.
Across the Creek was made possible in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
I was on the streets trying to survive, and I hitchhiked all over trying to find work, Day labor was hard to get, but I couldn't take city life, I just couldn't do it. So I just came back. And my father died when I was 4 years old. But Mom raised us, and she told me stories about my grandfather. The only reason I survived was the stories and the ceremonies that happened when I was young. And I think that's what saved me personally, knowing who I am. And right after that, looked like things opened up. The older men started talking to me. Some sang, some tell stories, some pray, some cried. I sat in a sweat lodge and I listened to them talk, and the stories Mom were telling were happening. And I said, it's still here. What was 200-300 years ago is still here. The language, the spirituality is still here. The songs are still here. All we have to do is go back and take it.
Lakota hukshila ohitika cha maza sutapi ota Dakota pi. Lakota boy is brave ohitika cha. Many bullets were fired at them. Lakota boys had to be brave.
We come from poverty down here, come from a place where there's not much to do for our younger generation. I grew up our whole life seeing drugs and alcohol and stuff, so it's kind of mainly what we grew up with. Just how you cope with it and stuff. There's nothing to do around here, We have 8 gyms down here for people to be playing basketball, kickball, whatever, And not one of them are open but one time a week, and that's the college, And then they go home from school, and then we see our families doing drugs, alcohol, like methamphetamine and stuff. That's why they grow up watching that their whole lives,
These kids don't have anybody at home. They just hunger for that. And they're not taught patience, endurance. So any little challenge, they give up. They look for an easy out. Our kids are not strong anymore. Mentally, they're very weak.
The youth, they need quality time with their parents. From the time they're born until they get into college, they need that more than anything. Nobody spends quality time with their kids anymore. They work, everybody works, no time. But when they come home, they sit in front of that thing and start playing or watch TV, and they ignore each other. You need to turn them off and at least sit there for an hour or two and just visit each other.
Times have so changed. It's sad to sit there and think about things that took place years ago and compare them to what's going on nowadays. I don't know what my grandparents would think if they come back for one day and see all of this that's going on today.
We had dreams. That's what guided us. Nowadays, I think our young people, they don't have the dreams. We want to belong to someone, we want to belong to something, and we want to belong to some place. It's only human nature. Growing up with the elders, I always had somebody that I belonged to. I had something that I belonged to, and I had some place that I belonged to.
We lived out here. We were born and raised out here, across the creek from where I'm living. We had a big barn and a big corral. Then we had horses. We just lived on horses. We just ride around out there. When it's too hot, we just go down the river, swim. And my mom had her horses. My grandma had her horses. Gee, we had a lot of horses. Everything was so different.
My parents, I loved them so much. My mother was a very, very nice person. Good mother. I can never exchange another person for a mother like her. And wintertime came, and we were very, very poor, very poor. Hard times. Everybody had a hard time them days, them years. We used to go down the creek, chop wood. Whatever mom had, whatever my auntie had, we all combined together. We ate together. We even slept in each other's houses to keep warm.
We grew up in a time when families shared their history with us. They talked to us about our grandfathers, what they stood for, about the culture.
The Lakota way of bringing up a child, my experience is that they always talked with us. They never talked at us. And me, my grandmother, she never scolded me. She never used harsh words. She was the one that I learned anything and everything about who and how and what I am as a Lakota person. She was the one I learned my language from, my stories, my songs, the way of life.
They taught us patience. They talk about endurance, endure pain and frustration, loneliness, anger, those things. And this is what I tell these boys when I work with them. And I had the high school kids. I work with 7th to 12. So I was put some of this stuff on the blackboard, and I was talking about. I said, "This is what a Lakota man is." And one of the boys raised his hand. One of the Lakota boys raised his hand. I said, "What are you gonna be when you get out of school?" He said, "I'm gonna be a wino." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Everybody is." He was just angry. I said, "See this Lakota here on the board?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Maybe that's you. Maybe the Lakota is you." "What?" He said, "Somebody has to do it. We can't just talk about it anymore." I said, "We're not history. We are here today. Somebody has to pick that up. Maybe it's you."
Hey, bud. Remember I told you today what we're going to do today? How many of you got your definitions done?
I did.
I never did thought I would be here where I am now. And matter of fact, when I student taught, it was for social studies and science. So that's what I got my degree in, is that. But I also had a major in Lakota studies. And this position opened up and they offered it to me. I knew when I picked it up, it was a heavy shirt. It was a heavy shirt to wear. And I thought to myself, that's one of the things that I'm probably gonna have to do. It's the hardest thing to do, because I knew social studies, I knew it, I could teach it, I loved history. But could I teach the language? Could I go back in the classroom and tell the kids, I'm gonna learn the language back again with you. I know how to pronounce the words, I know how to make the sounds, I heard it, and I'm gonna learn it along with you. Could I humble myself down that far? And could I do that?
We gotta bring that youth back to who he or she is through the language. If they know the language, that's gonna help them. If they know the key words, that's gonna tell them who they are.
This time in Lakota. Wanchi, Pa, Yamani, Dopa, Sapta, Shakpe, Shakoi, Shagaloga, Napjunka, Vichemna.
So we constructed the daycare center that we call Sichangu Oyate Chikalawanspe Oti, which is a Little People's Learning Center. Our goal is that to use this daycare center as a training center. I hire fluent Lakota speakers who I call Lakota educators, and they come in and they speak the language. Our goal is to get the language out there today.
Red, Shah.
It's been an honor and a privilege to work with these young children, and I really like my job, and the speaking, it just comes natural for me because that was my first language. It's really important to start with the infants and the toddlers. They really catch on. The preschool over here, they catch on really quick.
Leshunka Kimithawa. Heart, Shante, Cloud, Machpia.
We try to speak the language to them, on a daily basis so they catch on. So they really catch on fast. It's amazing.
So here I am, I took it on, I did it. I got to learn my language, at the same time teach it to the kids. It was hard, but it came more easy being the fact that I had my grandma in my younger years teaching me and showing me things. So when I start learning the language, I begin to learn and understand the thought process behind the Lakota language, the philosophy, the difference between English thought and Lakota thought.
I think one of the most important things that I see is the importance of our language. Because without our language, we don't have our culture. The elders used to say, when they don't understand the language, it's very difficult to talk to them. Because, the language itself has an essence of its own.
When we learn these words, like what they were doing here, inside of me, it's just like an over feeling that I'm doing it, but you don't want to say, I'm doing it, and it's happening in front of you, and it's sometimes my I'll get a lump in my throat, or it's almost like a tear, but I don't want to freak out the kids, what's wrong with Mr. Fast Dog, but it's like of joy of their doing it, and that's to take something and to embrace it and to carry it with pride and to say it without reluctance.
A medicine man, they call themselves Ieska, interpreters. They interpret for the spirits. The spirit will diagnose your problem and will tell the Ieska, said, this is the plant or this root. We'll address it. Here's where you find it. They'll give a description. You go there and you will find it. And you talk to them. You talk to that plant or that herb. Thank you for your sacrifice, so our loved one will live. Thank you.
There's a pine tree out there, just a whole bunch of them. That's where I'm standing for 4 days and 4 nights. My grandpa come to me. Second night he come up to me and he said, grandson, you gotta hold this pipe, he said. Stand still, he said. Prayed and cried, he said. So I did. And here, he gave me power for medicine. After that, I went to Bearview, and I stand there. So that's where I got be medicine from there on.
So every ceremony we have is designed to help us grow, to develop. Nobody has given us that. We are developing our own energy, our own health, letting creation know what we're doing. Sometimes we get help from creation. So that's how we work. We don't grab, we share with creation.
We're here on the Pioneer Indian Reservation, Porcupine, South Dakota, and we're about 3 miles north of where my grandfather grew up. We raise buffalo here, and our organization is called the Knife Chief Buffalo Nation Organization. We call it Knife Chief because Knife Chief was a grandfather of mine. I caretake, I help watch the buffalo, and that might even be a stretch to a caretaker because they take care of themselves. We're trying to reconnect with the buffalo, but we're also trying to reconnect our cultural ways. In the past, buffalo was our food, clothing, and shelter, and there's a lot of songs, there's a lot of ceremonies connected to the buffalo. I want to be able to develop this relationship that we have with the buffalo, with our children. Life moves so fast, and you got the internet, and you got texting and cell phones. A lot of our young people might be right now sitting at home, and not really knowing what opportunities are here.
This organization grew out of the whole spiritual movement. We really noticed that young people's point of view or perspectives and worldview was beginning to change because of their experience in attending ceremonies. But when it came to actually, the social, economic issues facing young people, those things still exist. And so the question was, how do we do this? How do we fully look at, housing, jobs, economic development, social issues from that foundation of culture and spirituality? We're really trying to create a community where you're building homes for people, places for businesses, infrastructure for all of that. We have only owned the property for 1.5 years and have set up a headquarters on it, started doing a community garden on it, built a hiking, walking, and biking trail 1 mile around the property. So sometimes we talk about culture as if it's just sun dance, just ceremonies, just these things. But really culture is like how we are today, how we treated that person when they came in that door, or how we live. And I think that we're trying to ask the question of how do we want to live in the 21st century here on the res, and being able to have jobs, have homes, have opportunities, but at the same time be able to hold on to who we are.
We've been focusing on song and dance. In early childhood, they would like us to get the kids moving. And the types of activities that they do, they needed a physical activity. So we put the dance as for the physical activity. We chose our own Lakota identity. And so it was just a simple task, like teaching them what a feather was by showing them a feather and saying wiaka. And we went on from there, just getting the kids out there to move. And that seems to get the parents' attention when they see their child out there dancing. If they get their child into dancing or singing, they would lead a more healthy lifestyle. That drum beat alone is what helps to draw the families to the program, because when they hear and feel the drum beat, it's waking them up and revitalizing their spirit. In the song, they are learning vocabulary and they are learning the structure of the language. And they are also learning a story that they have to tell of their battle, or their deed, their zuya, their journey, what we call it. It talks about who they are and who we are and where are we going. And to me, that's really important, that we establish identity so we know who we are, where we came from, and where are we going.
There is more kids doing it. They're doing it now. I like to think it's because I taught them that it's okay to be Lakota now. It's okay to speak Lakota. It's okay to learn this language and speak it. I like to think it's because of that.
I know I don't have a magic wand, but my vision is that someday that, all our youth, infants, toddlers, they would catch on to the language and keep it going. So they'll be more fluent speakers.
I turned to these ways because I didn't have nothing left. I was at my lowest point in my life, rock bottom. I went to treatment and stuff, and I finally went back to sweating there, and finally I just remembered all of it. Our circle that we're in right now, we're all young. We're under 30, we're all together all the time, so trying to bring the younger generation to us.
I actually love who I am. I love being Lakota. And I thank the Creator for letting me be born to this place.
My hope would be that people will feel the power of the land, feel this energy, and feel what's happening here, which is life. Coming together to learn together and to be together, just enjoy themselves, while they're living,
One evening I came back, and that time my house was the only one here. Just nothing out there. And back here, this open, was filled with a flock of birds. I mean, they're all over. In the sky is like a huge cloud. Just like a big cloud. They stand and watch them. But they're all hawks. Different color, size, and shape, but they were hawks. You're lucky if you witnessed the gathering of a nation once in your lifetime. Every species on earth will do this periodically to renew and strengthen that relationship among themselves. So we as humans We're many colors, languages, culture, tradition. We have the hardest time. That's been my dream. It's always been my dream that we can be together. I can't lose faith in human nation. I said, I can't do that. I still trust.
You know, there's rays of hope here and there, and it's always encouraging. And I guess at times it seems very bleak, but now and then, here and there, I always think, well, maybe the spirit of their grandmother, or the spirit of their grandfather, or the spirit of somebody on the other side has touched their heart, touched their mind, touched their understanding.
Across the Creek was made possible in part by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.